Hey, what's up, stock compounders? Brad here. So today I want to talk about international guru stocks. What are the best investors in the US buying outside of the US? Now, a few days ago, I made a video based on 13F filings. What did these super investors on this list here buy in quarter three? Kind of high conviction bets, which is a fantastic way if you're starting out investing, or even if you're a seasoned investor. This is a fantastic way to identify potential investment opportunities that have already been vetted by one of the best investors in the world. So I love 13Fs. I love employing this shameless cloning strategy in my investment portfolio. But today we're going to take it a step further. So in 13F filings, we can't see what these investors are investing in outside of the US. All we can see is kind of their US equity positions, okay? But there are tools that allow us to see what they're buying outside of the US, and that's what we're going to get into today. Now, why would we want to buy outside of the US? Well, there's a few reasons. Ray Dalio talks about how we're nearing the end of our long-term debt cycle. He thinks there's going to be a new power that rises up to kind of displace the US as the global world power. He's concerned about the US dollar continuing to be the global reserve currency. And this is something Phil Town actually talked quite a bit about in his last Invested podcast episode. It was episode like 290, I believe it was. So check that out if you want to dive into that. Another reason to invest outside of the US is the US stock market seems quite inflated at the moment. If you look at the Buffett indicator, if you look at the Shiller PE, we are really high, guys. We're kind of, there haven't been many times in the last century that we've been this high in terms of stock market prices. So that's another reason to look outside of the US, where different countries are at different stages of the cycle, right? So there can be a lot more opportunities for value investors to find outside of the US at the moment. And we've seen that from Mohnish Pabrai. He's really kind of scaled back his investing in the US. You see him buying in India, South Korea, Turkey. I mean, he's kind of on a global rendezvous right now to try to find great investment opportunities. So, we can do that as well. And I'm going to talk about that in this video. So the first thing I want to introduce, how do we find what these great investors are buying outside of the US? So what I did was I used TIKR Terminal. So TIKR Terminal, fantastic resource. I found it through Corner of Berkshire and Fairfax. They're in their beta, so it's free. You just need a sign-up link. And what you can do is you can search for each of these investment managers within TIKR Terminal, okay? And I'm going to show you how to do that. You go to Track Investing Gurus. So if I want to search Pabrai, I'll go to Pabrai Investment Funds. And now it'll show me here everything that Pabrai owns, okay? Micron's Heritage Growth Properties, those are two of his US holdings, which show up on 13F filings through the SEC. But the rest of them do not show up on 13F filings. You've got Nice Holdings, which is a South Korean company, Suntech Realty, Rain Industries, these are both from India, Races, which is from Turkey, and then Edelweiss, which is from India as well. And you can see here, these first two, yes, they came from 13F filings. But then these last ones outside of the US came from other sources, trade reports, shareholder reports. So keep that in mind. These aren't government documents. Make sure you kind of fact check that, try to find multiple sources that verify that Pabrai is invested in some of these international holdings. But it's great. So what I did was I looked up that list of super investors here that I follow most closely, and try to find what are their high conviction bets outside of the US, okay? And I compiled that here. So, and I've also sorted it by conviction. So for example, BYD company makes up 26% of Lilu's kind of equity portfolio as reported through TIKR Terminal. And then I sorted by conviction, which is what made sense to me. So I also included the industry here. Obviously BYD company is big into electric vehicles. I think it's also in solar. It's doing a lot of things. Pretty exciting company, actually. And Lilu, I think, made this investment years ago. I believe Charlie Munger also made an investment in BYD, perhaps through Lilu. I'm not sure whether that was separate or whether it was under the umbrella of Lilu. But so, we get to see what these amazing investors are buying outside of the US, right? Which is pretty awesome. Just going to reset that here. Sorry about that. Yeah, so we've got which countries represented here? China, South Korea, Japan, India, France, okay? So quite a diversity of different geographies there. Lilu Pabrai, Jeffrey Ubben from Value Act Capital, Michael Burry of Big Short fame, Guy Spier, who's good friends with Mohnish Pabrai, Chris Hone of the TCI Fund, Ray Dalio, of course, needs no introduction, and Warren Buffett. So some big names there. Now, I don't know when these investors bought into these companies. Okay, it's not like 13F filings where you can look at the latest one, you can look at the one before that, and track when these investors bought in. I'm not sure how to tell that, but the way that I've used here to try to get a sense, is it trading at a compelling price, or has it just gone up through the roof since these investors bought in? And the way I'm gauging that is a metric called enterprise value over earnings before interest and taxes. Okay, this is also known as the acquirer's multiple. It's also known as earnings yield via Joel Greenblatt's magic formula. It's really a way to figure out how cheap or how expensive a business is. If I pay, enterprise value is essentially what does it cost to buy the whole business, and then EBIT is basically what are my earnings from the last 12 months. So it's really a measure. If I buy this whole business, how many years is it going to take for me to make my money back through earnings, assuming there's no growth in the company, right? Assuming I'm making the same earnings year after year after year, which obviously isn't a reasonable assumption for a lot of these companies. They're, pretty fast growing companies. But it is a measure of how cheap or expensive a company might be. And now, keeping that in mind, I would not be comparing these companies to each other. So another piece of information I gathered here is, how low did this acquirer's multiple get looking back, say, over the last 5 years? Okay, so we're looking historically, how cheap did the company trade, in the not too distant past versus what it's trading at now. So you can see 20 times enterprise value to EBIT back in 2017, and now it's at 53. So big difference over the last 3 years for BYD company. If you look at the second one, Mohnish Pabrai, nice holdings in South Korea. That is this is a very nice acquirer's multiple right there today at 6.5 times. It's gotten down as low as about 5.5. And that was just, what was it, like 8 months ago now? So this is very compelling here for me to want to dive deeper into this company. And then you've got Olympus Corp out of Japan. A big difference there, 44 times, whereas just last year it was 18 times. Autech, which is owned by Michael Burry through Scion Asset Management, a big difference. It's about 3 times as expensive on an earnings yield metric than it was last year in June. Indian Energy Exchange, which is owned by Guy Spier, it's still within striking distance of what it was last year around this time. But it has gone up significantly. I also want to say Mohnish Pabrai also was an owner of Indian Energy Exchange. It looks like he sold out since then. I think last year he owned it, but it looks like he no longer owns this one. But Guy Spier is still holding on. We've got this aerospace and defense company out of France, 21 times EV to EBIT now, whereas it was 10 times just, 8 months ago. Alibaba, the largest equity holding based on kind of the 13F filings that Ray Dalio's Bridgewater has is Alibaba. There's a couple that are higher, but they're ETFs. So this is his highest single company holding in Bridgewater, which is a big testament to Alibaba. And you can see it's not too far, actually, from where it was this summer, which was fairly low on an acquirer's multiple, at least historically for Alibaba. And then the last one, Itochu Corp in Japan, which is owned by Berkshire Hathaway. It's only 1% of the portfolio, but it was the kind of the highest foreign stock within Berkshire Hathaway. And you can see it's again within striking distance of that low from last summer. So these are great companies to dive into if you're interested in bringing some foreign stocks into your value investment portfolio. I'm just going to shorten this industry tab so I can show you guys one more thing. So I'm very interested in buying some foreign stocks, kind of getting my feet wet doing that. So I signed up for an account through Interactive Brokers, which I've heard from a number of people tends to be the best in terms of buying stocks outside of the US. And so I ran a test. Which of these companies could I buy today through my Interactive Brokers account? Okay, I haven't bought any yet, but what could I buy? So I can buy BYD Company out of China. Today's price is $22.77. Again, I don't love this comparison between today's acquirer's multiple and the acquirer's multiple from a few years ago. So I'm probably going to be waiting for this to come down quite a bit as I research the company and learn more about it. But I would love to own this company. Li Lu is probably maybe even the investor I'd like to clone most. I respect Li Lu so much. He's the only investment manager that Charlie Munger has given money to invest for him. So Li Lu, right at the top of my list there. Next one, Nice Holdings. You guys, this is the one that had the most mouth-watering acquirer's multiple. And unfortunately, I cannot buy South Korean companies through my Interactive Brokers account. I don't think there's any brokerage accounts in the U.S. that would allow me to buy South Korean stocks. Now, there was a tip I got, which was pretty interesting. It might be possible to buy options in South Korea through Interactive Brokers. And by exercising those options, it may be possible to buy the stock indirectly by buying the options. So that could be something worth exploring. That could also be true for Turkey or India. I'm just not sure. I kind of heard this secondhand from one of my subscribers. Thank you. Sorry, I'm forgetting your name at the moment. But that's interesting. I love hacks like that, so I may explore that. But as it stands, I can't buy in South Korea. Olympus Corp from Japan, I can buy. Current price in US dollars, $20.04. Again, the recent acquirers multiple just last year and the acquirers multiple now, I mean, they're night and day different. It's really gotten run up. So I'm sure I'll be waiting on that one as well. Again, South Korea, can't do it through Interactive Brokers. India. So it's weird. I searched for this stock in Interactive Brokers and it came up. So I thought, oh, maybe I can buy this thing. I just don't have trading permissions in India. So I got on the chat for Interactive Brokers. Turns out you need to live in India in order to be able to buy Indian stocks through Interactive Brokers. So unfortunately, India is out at the moment, which is too bad because that's one of the markets I would be most excited to invest in. So can't do that one. This aerospace and defense company out of France, yes, I can buy it through Interactive Brokers. China, so Alibaba, of course, we can buy in the US because it's an ADR, it's an American Depository Receipt, which means we can buy it through the US exchanges. So that one's no big deal for anyone. You can buy that in Robinhood. And then Itochu Corp from Japan. Yes, I can buy Japanese companies through Interactive Brokers. So that's exciting. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to give you an overview of, how do you find foreign stocks to invest in? In the US, I think it's very important to, start with a list of companies that great investors are buying. Now, when you get outside of the US, I think it becomes an order of magnitude more important that you start with a list of stocks that great investors have bought. As Mohnish Pabrai says, fraud is actually pretty infrequent in the U.S. The Securities and Exchange Commission, I mean, there's a lot of red tape to try to protect investors in the U.S. against fraud. Now, when you go overseas, it is so much more lax. It is like the Wild West, which is why Mohnish Pabrai, he doesn't meet management of U.S. companies. Right? He doesn't feel the need to do that. If he's going to invest outside of the U.S., he insists on visiting the management for that company, kicking the tires. He mentioned he bought kind of this warehousing REIT in Turkey. He wanted to check that every warehouse that was on their books actually existed, right? On the ground. It's an actual building. So, it's so important to do even more due diligence than usual when you're investing overseas, out of the country. And so this is so important because, when you're looking at what these great investors have bought internationally, a lot of them are kicking the tires. That doesn't mean that you don't need to do your due diligence. It just gives that extra level of safety, knowing that another great investor has kind of gone through their process of vetting these companies, okay? Super important for stocks outside of the US. So anyway, guys, I just wanted to do a follow-up to my video a few days ago, what the gurus were buying in the US in quarter three. I wanted to take a hard look at what the gurus have bought outside of the US for any of you who want to kind of geographically diversify your portfolio a little bit. So yeah, let me know what stocks on this list you guys are interested in digging deeper into. I may even do an analysis video on a few of these. I will do one on Alibaba. I've already started kind of digging into Alibaba. I'm very interested in that one. It seems to me like it's kind of the Amazon of China, which China just has so many more tailwinds than the U.S. at this point. So definitely digging into that one. But let me know if any of these others catch your attention. The South Korean ones, Indian, Turkish companies, I'm not going to spend time on those because I can't buy them at the moment. But any of the others here, if these intrigue you guys, let me know in the comments. And if you're investing in any of them particularly, please chime in. Let us know, what you see in these companies. Share resources. I love when these videos become so much more than the video itself in the comments. There's just so many smart people who are chiming in this community, and it's awesome. I'm really digging that. So anyway, guys, I will link to the spreadsheet in the description. Check out TIKR Terminal if you haven't already. And that's all I got, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Take care.